Hello and welcome to this Serial Geek TV episode commentary for Night Game, an episode of The Real Ghostbusters produced by Deke. Fun fact, I'll start off with a fun fact. This episode aired in the UK on the 18th of January 1988. The reason I bring this up was that it was the second episode to air in the UK, the first being Slimer Come Home. I was so excited for this show that, back in the day of VHS machines, you put a tape in, you set it to the channel, you press record. I pressed record. I watched the episode. I loved Slimer Come Home. In hindsight, not the best episode. Visually, definitely not the best episode. Excited, watched it, recorded it, rewound the tape, went back to the start, realised instead of taping children's ITV, I taped children's BBC and an episode of Droids instead. No disrespect to Droids, I didn't want to watch Droids. I wanted to watch The Real Ghostbusters. Thankfully, with this episode, Night Game, written by the great Catherine M. Drennan, I managed to record this episode, thankfully, this time round. So, 18th of January 1988, I record my first episode of The Real Ghostbusters. I watched this episode over and over and over again so many times. And I'm glad I did, because it's one of the visually strongest episodes of the series, but it's a really great story. And yeah, as you can see from these opening moments, it really sets the scene and a tone. This episode was also released on VHS in the UK, so this episode got a lot of viewings in the Etok household. So yeah, I've got a lot of notes about this episode just because I've worked on the Real Ghostbusters officially with the Time Life DVD box set, the much celebrated, I should say, Time Life DVD box set, and Marcia Goodman, who was the voice director for the show, gave me all the voice notes for the episodes for the entire series. So I can tell you that the voice cast recorded this episode on the 27th of June 1986. Crazy to think it took well over a year and a half to air in the UK, but them's the breaks. The beauty of this show, and I'm sure I mention it time and time again, is that the characters, thanks to the movie, are so incredibly well defined throughout the cartoon series, especially like the first season and the syndicated season. The writers really knew what they were doing because they had the movie to work from, and also you had writers like Richard Mueller who'd done the book adaptation of the movie, so he knew the characters better than most, and he wrote for the show, and he wrote some spectacular episodes. This show had so much talent from top to bottom, whether it be the producers, the writers, the voice actors, the Japanese studios that animated them. Admittedly, not all of them hit a home run. Oh god, unintentional baseball reference there, but I should actually say as well about baseball, not a sport that translated to the UK has ever really translated over here to the United Kingdom. So part of the genius of this episode is telling a story about a sport that we in the UK know nothing about, or very little about. The basics of baseball, but when they're talking about certain things, you got to go with it. But yeah, they make it very easy to understand, I should say.
I'm afraid not. I'm in the middle of a project here.
But I don't want to go by myself.
And yeah, I mentioned the voice cast. Yeah, I mean this opening scene has got so many great little quotes, and again I talk about the characters, how well they're defined. You think this is almost an extension of the movie. This could be a scene in the movie, the way the characters are talking. Okay, Slimer wouldn't be this character in the movie, of course, because he was the onion head, as it were, before he became Slimer in the cartoon. But it's surprising because the network shows, season 1 and season 2, and etc., Slimer is quite a prominent cast member. But in the syndicated season, of which this is a part of, Slimer was kind of not relegated, but Straczynski, who was in charge of the syndicated season, really didn't want Slimer as, the sidekick or anything like that, understandably so. So Slimer in the syndicated season has a much more reduced role. He's prominent here in these opening scenes, but as you will see, he kind of just goes from the episode shortly after this. This is pretty much it for Slimer. Whereas in a network episode, he will be featured prominently.
The Jags may not win this one, but they gave it their best.
I should talk about here you're going to see some fantastic special effects animation. Japanese studios, especially the top flight ones, really knew, you'll see it here, how to put so much character into light and energy movement. It's hard to explain like sometimes, but the timing where the animation is on 1s or 2s, which is the frame rate, they give it so much like character. It's just energy, and you want to kind of define what it's doing, but they're able to give it a life, and it's beautiful to watch. This next scene is so good. I really love like Winston trying to convince his fellow Ghostbusters, and Peter's line here is great.
A JAG player dropping a pop fly isn't exactly a supernatural event.
Now, if he'd caught the ball, that'd be supernatural.
I know what I saw.
I love Winston's passion in this scene. It's I think that's another reason why I like this episode a lot, or why many people like this episode, is that, you know, Winston shows up in the movie and we love him in the movie, but he does show up halfway through because that's what the script dictated. And when he joins the movie, they always describe him as the everyman, which I get. He's very much the voice of the audience, looking at his surroundings and thinking, what the hell is going on here? Whereas the other characters obviously have their place in Ghostbusters already by that point in the movie. I want to just highlight here Arsenio Hall's voice acting. He's so passionate. Listen here.
It could take days to get permission. What happens if there's a major supernatural manifestation in the meantime? People could get hurt.
And I should say about Arsenio Hall as well, I feel like, and even with his character design and everything, with Winston's character design, I feel that the character is portrayed much younger in the series than he is in the movie. They might be true of all the characters, but I think especially Winston, he always felt like a much younger character in the TV series. And I would say in Ghostbusters 2, he feels kind of slightly younger than he is in Ghostbusters 1. Maybe it's as simple as the removal of the moustache, I don't know. But it is funny. I always thought like he was a much younger character in the series. Interesting here to see Winston turning up in his own vehicle. Such a unique moment, because throughout the series, the only other character who has their own vehicle is Janine, with her wonderful VW that has a story of its own at times. Again, I'll highlight the awesome special effects here. Again, so much going on in terms of what they have to do in camera. This is obviously before the days of computer-generated animation became the norm. And yeah, the Japanese animators were putting so much work into these shots.
I hope I'm doing the right thing.
Oh, I love the animation. What's the animation of this creature? Rawr, it just opens its mouth wide and Winston fires into it. I love the cut as well. It just cuts. Watch this shot of the firehouse with all the lights slowly coming on. This is fantastic.
Hello, Ghostbusters?
Blink, 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 boosh. Ecto-1 comes out. Such a great piece of direction. And that shot of Winston, that was actually used on the UK VHS cover, or a redrawn version of it was. Baseball glove to the face. Oh, and I have to talk about the art direction of this scene, because this is so fantastic. This is wonderful animation. Because you would think, looking at this, oh, big orange special effect, big glow. They probably just put an orange filter over the lens so that the Ghostbusters now look like they're illuminated by this glow. But what the key colour artist has done is said, right, we need to make sure these cells reflect that special effect. So those cells are painted in that way. Oh, I should mention this shot here where the Ghostbusters take their guns down. That was actually reused in another episode with the correct colours, obviously. Lost and Foundry. Look up that and you'll see that shot where the three Ghostbusters take their guns down. I always love this line.
Let's blast!
And yeah, the effects here by the Japanese studio are so fantastic on the proton guns. You really do get a sense of, it just reminds you of the movie so much. Look at the smoothness there of the proton beams. Also, be sure to look at the very anime expressions as the characters hit the floor and strike one another. Look at Peter's mouth especially.
It worked! Uh-oh.
And now we get one of the most imposing ghosts of the series, the Umpire. And with this, we go to an ad break.
Uh-oh.
And back from the ad break, we have the Umpire standing over the Ghostbusters. A great line here, great payoff.
What have you done with Winston?
They made me shortstop.
So, I love that gag. So, what have you done with Winston? They made me shortstop. Often when talking about this series, we're always drawn to the lovely Japanese animated visuals, for the most part. However, it should be said that like a lot of the backgrounds, well actually all of the backgrounds and the character designs and the ghosts and the monsters, etc., were all done in-house at DiC by their talented artists. So you have to highlight that. Look at the designs for the sides of good and evil. Just so very cool. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to a huge Real Ghostbusters fan, Joe O'Brien. He loves this episode, and the Ghost Umpire is one of his favourite ghosts in the series.
No one can be neutral.
The umpire said I could play. I always wanted to play in the majors.
I always love about this episode is how easygoing Winston is about the whole situation. It's like his enthusiasm for baseball has removed all fear from him. Just like, yeah, I'm enjoying playing baseball. I should give a shout out to Maurice LaMarche as the voice of the Ghost Umpire. He's just so imposing, that deep voice. It's just incredible. And Maurice's delivery of the next speech is fantastic. When Peter questions, you're doing all of this for one soul? And his response is just amazing.
For just one soul?
Just one soul? Is there anything on this puny earth as important? Isn't even one soul worth all this effort and more?
Yeah, I love that. I just think it's so interesting to see how much value the spirit world places on a single soul. It gives this situation real kind of gravitas. They're not just playing for a soul. It's like this soul is so important to the spirit world of both sides of good and evil. But whose soul are they playing for?
They must be playing for Winston's soul. Why else would they let him play?
And of all characters, it's Egon that jumps to the conclusion that they must be playing for Winston's soul. As we'll see, that is not the case. Spoiler. Just a side note here, looking at that shot of the three Ghostbusters. As a kid, I remember being utterly fascinated by the decision to give the Ghostbusters unique coloured suits. It's visually fantastic. For those that don't know, this was explained in the episode Citizen Ghost, when we see them coming back from the firehouse following the events of the movie covered in marshmallow. And they get the new suits delivered and they put them on. So it's really not much of an explanation, but you see how that transition happened. But yeah, I thought it was a really good visual. I will point this out, the aforementioned Joe O'Brien, who loves this episode, he spotted this a few years back. When the baseball is first pitched, if you go frame by frame on the shot where the catcher catches the baseball, the first frame of that shot has the baseball with a very angry face. It genuinely is a blink and you'll miss it frame. So if you go back, go frame by frame, you'll see the face on the ball. This montage also features a wonderful piece of music scored by Shuki Levy, who did the soundtrack for the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. There's a great gag coming up, and again shows an example of why this, I think, is one of the best written shows of the 80s. I've always said He-Man and She-Ra are my favourite cartoons, but the Real Ghostbusters, I think, it's at least the syndicated season, is the best written cartoon of the 80s. Just my opinion. But here, this is where you get some fantastic dialogue with the Real Ghostbusters questioning the decision.
Oh no, good call. You're out. Concise. We just wanted to point out, seeing as how you're new to this game, that evil just cheated.
Full tilt, flat out, no doubt about it.
Doesn't that call for a forfeiture of the game? You mean declare evil the losers for cheating?
Yeah, that's the basic idea.
But evil cheats. That's its nature. It does whatever unscrupulous or immoral thing it has to win. That's why we call them evil. Only good is not allowed to cheat. If good adopts the ways of evil, it becomes evil. So if good cheats, evil automatically wins.
just when you think the scene is over, there's one more killer line.
I wonder if good is allowed to steal bases.
Maybe good just borrows them, Ray.
Maybe good just borrows them. It's just fantastic dialogue. I really do love the design of the evil spirits in this episode, more so than the good spirits, because the evil spirits utilize their abilities in a certain way. So you'll see that there's a snake-headed one. There's this guy who spits out the ball. Even it's addressed earlier in the episode when one of the Ghostbusters says, "Don't Winston's teammates look a little wispy to be playing this game?" And it's hard to ignore the Egyptian motif as well on the good spirits.
Safe!
love this gag as well with the old man. Yeah, the old man spirit. Such good direction. God, this show was good. You know what, that's amazing. I've never noticed this before. Look at this shot of the three Ghostbusters talking to Winston. Ray's got his hands out, Egon's got his arms crossed, and Peter's got his hands in his pockets. That's so much in line with their characters. Peter's always so chilled, his hands are just in his pockets. Egon's kind of on this defensive stance, and Ray's hands are always out because I guess he's always ready to bust some ghosts. But even to that degree, oh, here's the snake ghost I mentioned earlier. Fantastic! Look at that. Again, you're designing ghosts for this episode, so the character designers would have had to think, right, spirits that can be used in a baseball game, and you'll see with the, as they call him, the relief pitcher, which we will see coming up very shortly. Such a great character. I mean, that spirit right there is got to be the wispiest of all. I like this one-eyed bat creature. Oh, I feel sorry for the snake guy. Just gets taken away. Here we go. The relief pitcher is kind of, it's so, this design is amazing, and even the way it's presented, you think it would be played for comedy. It's a cycloptic elephant creature, and yet the design is really horrific, and the way it's so imposing, but it's somewhat tense and terrifying, especially with the scene coming up, because you think, oh, he's a baseball pitcher, you know, so we see he fires the baseballs out of his trunk, but it's done really kind of terrifying. Look at the speed of that as well, the way they bend the ball. It doesn't even have time to set up a second strike.
Down to the last out already? They'd better have their best hitter coming up.
It's Winston.
The moment the music changes, it suddenly gets tense. It's Winston. Can Winston take this guy? Oh my god, I know this episode so well. This is a terrible commentary. I'm literally just parroting lines of dialogue from the episode.
Winston's fate. There's got to be something we can do.
I love the umpire here kind of goading the Ghostbusters into doing something. And Venkman's logic, for the most part, makes sense.
Hey, we're not playing in the game. No one said we couldn't cheat.
Play ball!
This close-up, look at that. So cool. Bam! Just Winston takes a step back. There's evil spirits, the big furry one, cheering. Look at that one, looks like a dog. Look at Egon in the foreground here. As Peter's like dishing out his plan, Egon just lowers his eyes and his head, and he's just, the thought process begins. The music here as well. Oh, so tense. Winston's thrown to the ground. Are the Ghostbusters going to join in, help their friend, and thus cheat? I love that Peter and Ray are the only ones drawing their weapons, with Egon still deep in thought. And listen to the way the music just cuts here as well when Egon makes the realization.
No. No, stop! We can't do it. If we cheat, good loses.
And the music starts. Such a great moment. I love Peter's look. But how's Winston going to hit this third pitch? Oh, so good. So good. Look at they do the slow motion. Very easy to achieve actually in animation, but yeah, look at this. I love that when he strikes the ball, Winston goes flying. It's a home run, obviously. So good. Just destroys the scoreboard. I love that just that one ghost whose jaw just drops. And this shot of Winston, I love it when he's the relief on his face. It's a great scene and a great moment for the character of Winston, because it's all reliant on his love of baseball and doing the right thing. That's always been Winston's kind of MO throughout the series. It's always doing the right thing. I also like that after the ghosts are defeated here, quite graphically, we see these evil spirits just die and melt. With if you listen to the sound effects, rather grim. But I like the fact that the episode just simply doesn't go for the happy ending. It's like, we saved the day, now we're back at the firehouse. We get an additional conversation with the umpire here, and it's Really good, with Egon determining.
It was a test, wasn't it?
I told you no one can be neutral. You had to choose. Would you cheat for your friend, or would you trust in fair play and let good win on its own terms?
This is one of those episodes where it's really difficult to talk over because I just want the dialogue to flow. I mean, that's the case with a lot of the syndicated episodes of The Real Ghostbusters. We get a lovely twist that I don't think anyone sees coming. Yeah, and it kind of makes no sense, but at the same time it just works perfectly. You need Venkman at times to be that butt of jokes, but not in the Saturday morning cartoon way, in this kind of very clever way.
It was your soul we were playing for, Peter. That's why they let me play.
When Peter realises it's his soul they were playing for, and that if he had cheated, he would have killed himself. If you listen to the dialogue here, after Peter says he only goes to Mets games, you hear Egon say, the Toronto Blue Jays are the team to watch.
The Toronto Blue Jays are the team to watch.
The following year, my father and I would holiday in Canada, and I'd actually end up watching the Toronto Blue Jays play at the Sky Dome. So that was pretty cool. Good times. The end credits, I'll do my best to give shout-outs. Obviously, Straczynski goes without saying. Without him, this series would have been very, very different. Marsha Goodman, who was the voice director for the show, did a fantastic job. Arsenio Hall, Maurice LaMarche, Lorenzo Music, Laura Summer, and of course, Frank Welker. Bringing them together as one of the best voice acting teams of the 1980s is just... what a legacy. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode commentary. If you did, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.